We begin in a world far different from Earth, a place known as Terraner. Here, an ancient prophecy spoke of a moment when the Emperor's heart would be offered, and someone who defied fate would appear. This prophecy drove the ruler of the Lasclan Empire to madness. He sacrificed his own people, even children, hoping to summon a divine being. But instead of calling a heavenly entity, he summoned an ordinary man, Shihan. Out of anger and frustration, Shihan was cast into an unknown land, left alone in a world he had never seen. Time shifts, and we're now standing in the palace of Lasclan. Shihan is locked in a fierce fight against a massive serpent. With his powerful sword and his skill rumble of mountains, he overwhelms the beast. The Emperor, who summoned him, is shocked to see his creatures defeated so easily. Shihan reminds him that such threats mean nothing to him after all. He himself was a summoned being. And because of the Emperor's reckless summoning, countless lives had already been lost. A tyrant like that didn't deserve to rule. After barely escaping years ago, Shihan finally returns to the palace. For 3 years, he lived with one purpose: to put his sword through the Emperor. When their eyes met, Shihan felt his rage ignite. Today was the day he repaid every ounce of pain he endured and every comrade he lost. The Emperor screamed, blaming the prophecy for his downfall. But his cries ended quickly. Shihan struck him down. As the Emperor's lifeless body hit the floor, Shihan's close friend Lavender ran in. She congratulated him and hugged him tightly, relieved their struggle was finally over. Another companion, Lilstein, examined the Emperor's corpse and admitted that Shihan's true power was far greater than anyone imagined. Others began to gather, all discussing what came next. Lavina gently asked Shihan if he wanted to return home now. But Shihan already had his answer. He said he had decided to stay in this world because the person he loved lived here, and everything dear to him was now part of this land. Before anyone could celebrate, Lavina's mother approached and kissed Shihan on the cheek. And just then, a dimensional portal opened. The truth finally came out. Lilstein was a traitor. He claimed that Shihan had grown too powerful, and the Emperor's heart could help eliminate him. They all admitted they didn't need Shihan anymore. He had saved their world, and they were grateful, but they didn't want a new emperor rising from among them. Shihan looked toward the girl he loved, but she only smiled coldly. She said she never wanted to be the wife of an emperor. She wanted to become the empress herself. She didn't want someone like him as her partner. Shihan resisted, tried to fight back, but she whispered that she would ease his pain before shoving him into the portal with a widening grin. The portal closed. Everyone announced that their world had been saved by a hero from another land, and that he had willingly returned home. They declared their future in safe hands. The 6 new emperors would rule Terraner. Taxes were raised, people were released from labor, and peace returned across the kingdom. But that peace didn't last long. Another portal appeared. Far away in a quiet village, a girl stepped outside to hang her laundry. The sky was clear, the weather perfect. As she worked, something odd happened. A fish suddenly dropped beside her. She looked around, confused. More fish followed, falling from the sky. When she looked up, she saw a man falling through the clouds, completely naked. It was Shihan. He burst into laughter the moment he realized he had returned to Terraner. She stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. Later that evening, Shihan woke up on a bed inside her home. She brought him a bowl of porridge, still shocked that someone could literally fall from the sky. When he tried to get up, pain shot through his body. He was bruised all over. She initially thought he was from some remote tribe because he didn't speak the local language. But the moment he responded in perfect Terraner speech, she realized he wasn't a simple outsider. She explained that her village was 12 hours away from Grand Village, and that they were now in the Lilstein Empire territory formed after the revolution of the 7 heroes. Shihan's expression hardened. Lilstein, an emperor, the very man who betrayed him. Shihan noticed he was still naked, so he asked for something to cover himself with. After eating more porridge, he finally asked for her name. She introduced herself as Alida. Shihan immediately sensed something strange. Her posture, her hands, her reflexes. This girl was no ordinary peasant. She was trained with a sword. Elita was startled when he pointed that out. She admitted she worked as a mercenary when needed but mostly farmed for a living. Then Shihan asked the question that threw everything into chaos. "What is your relationship with Emperor Lustenad?" Elita froze. She flipped the table, drew a dagger, and attacked. But Shihan easily dodged every strike, even deflecting a dagger with a spoon. When she fell back, trembling, she asked, "Who are you?" Shihan answered calmly, "I am Song Shihan." Elita's eyes widened. The savior of the world was sitting right in front of her. She revealed her true name, Elitharas Bella Lustenade Lusklin. She was the daughter of the last emperor. Her life had been painful. During the castle's fall, her mother ordered the royal guard to protect her. After he died, Elita escaped and hid in this tiny village. Shihan was conflicted his enemy's daughter was the one who saved him. But Elita said none of that mattered anymore. The emperor was long dead. What people feared now were members of the imperial bloodline because they could open dimensional gates. Many hunted her for that reason. She thought Shihan was one of those assassins. Shihan fell into deep thought. The betrayal he suffered still burned inside him. But he slowly calmed down. Sometimes good people really do fall from the sky. Elita finally asked the question that bothered her the most. "How did you return to Terraner? Didn't you go back to your world?" Shihan clenched his fist and said her couldn't pass objects through portals, only living beings. That's why every time he arrived with nothing. Elita wondered if someone had summoned him again. But Shihan shook his head. He said he summoned himself. It had taken him 10 years to gain enough power to return. When he looked at her again, he asked something that stunned her. She was being hunted because she could summon creatures from another world, right? Elita quietly confirmed it. Then Shihan finally understood. He had chosen her as his new summoner. The moment magic flared, Elita couldn't believe what she sensed. She looked toward the street, where a squad of knights marched in formation. Leading them was an old man who informed the captain that magical signals were coming from the hut ahead. Everyone tightened their stance, including Knight Zeno. When he told me to stay close during the encirclement, I simply nodded. The squad spread out around the house while we prepared for a clash. Inside, Elita was already standing firm. Every movement showed she had trained for moments like these. Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the feeling that by barging into her home earlier, I had completely derailed her life. I approached her and asked her to say whatever she was thinking. Elita calmly replied that she was thankful I warned her about the upcoming siege. By then, the squad outside was already set. Flames erupted around the hut, cast by the old man. Some knights felt it was excessive, yet the attack still moved forward. Elita broke out first. She charged into the enemy line and quickly knocked down several opponents, but the sheer number became overwhelming. She narrowly dodged a heavy strike from Zeno, who was covered in a fierce aura. She instantly realized it was magic armor, his power level far above hers. She attempted a clean hit, but her attacks couldn't pierce his higher grade gear. His counter blow landed straight on her arm, forcing her back. Pain shot through her as she realized her arm was fractured. The knight told her to surrender, and after a brief pause, she admitted defeat. Zeno relaxed for a moment, but someone spoke behind him. It was me, standing close enough that he hadn't sensed my presence at all. He demanded I identify myself, but I simply told him I was tired of this. One blow sent him flying, shocking his entire squad. Their captain had just been planted into the ground like nothing. Elita stared at me, confused about why I was even fighting them, since they were technically my former comrades. The old man shouted for the others to eliminate me, and the remaining knights rushed forward. I had no choice but to respond. One strike after another, and the entire squad fell unconscious in a single sweep. When Zeno regained consciousness, he saw his squad lying around him. He couldn't believe an unarmed man defeated trained knights alone. Something about my movements reminded him of a certain hero their kingdom once knew. Before he could rise, I pushed him back down, telling him to rest. He had no strength left to resist. The old man stared in fear. Neither the knights nor the mages could do anything to stop me. He wondered where a swordsman like this even came from. After everything ended, I told Alita that the knights were no longer a threat. She slowly got up, agreeing that it was best to leave. The old man tried to protest, but he realized the mission had failed. He ordered his men to gather the fallen. One knight, trembling, admitted that none of them were dead. They were just buried in the ground, completely intact. By then, Alita and I had already disappeared into the forest. Even as we walked, I kept checking our surroundings. My strength had dropped further due to the effects of spatial displacement. My battle magic level was barely 10, and my mana was almost nothing compared to my former self. I wondered how long it would take to return to my true power. I glanced at Alita and noticed she was trying to endure the pain of her broken arm, yet she was relieved things hadn't turned out worse. Her attitude surprised me. After I tied her arm, she tried to say goodbye, but I stopped her. How was she going to cross the forest alone with that injury? She insisted she could manage on her own, but I refused. I played a part in her situation, and I couldn't just let her leave like this. After thinking for a while, she agreed and thanked me, speaking a bit too formally. I told her she didn't need to address me that way. Then I asked what she planned to do next. She had been exposed, she couldn't return home. She understood that, so we decided to continue forward together.